Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob? I mean, some of you might be like,
Continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's
You are listening to the Tammy Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really
right?
end. We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Sabatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Welcome to the Tammy Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast. Before we jump into today's episode, first of all, I want to thank you for pressing play. And I want to say thank you to today's sponsors. You guessed it. One of them is none other than F45, where strength and community and consistency all meet. If you have been curious, now is the time to check it out because we've got a sweet dealio for 2 weeks for $26. If you are not currently a member or have used a previous promo, come on in, check it out. It's low pressure, it's high support, it's super fun, and it is a great way to move your body with intention. And this episode is also sponsored by Unscripted Healing, which happens to be my business because it's my podcast and I'll do what I want. We are rolling out the Nourished Woman Within starting in February to take advantage of that fire horse energy and all that momentum. I wanted to share that because if any part of today's episode speaks to you and you want more customized, personalized support, literally me on your shoulder, holding your hand in your back pocket, whatever you need for 4 months for someone to truly help guide you through this process of integration, not white knuckling it, not putting band-aids over things, to truly integrate all things nutrition and movement and soul care and our spirituality and your inner child, all of the things, this woman within. If you want help doing that because you are tired of repeating the same old patterns, you can use the code Tammy Talks, get yourself $250 off. And that also comes with an individual session with me as well. And we already have some of those planned in throughout the program because those truly are an absolute game changer. And I want you to have another one of those available to you. So it's basically like $500 off. So please take advantage of that. If anything has been nudging you, speaking to you, calling you, saying, do this. Okay. Anyway, we officially start in February, but you can use that code. And I'm only putting that on here. So if you are a podcast listener, you're the only one who's getting that code. So just know you're special. Thank you for pressing play. So once again, today's episode came to me in multiple downloads and was confirmed several times through the course of conversations and other things that I listened to. So I'm just trusting that this is the message that needs to come through today. So bear with me. But I want to get started by asking you this question. Would I actually want to watch my life? Like if it were a movie or a play or some dramatic soap opera, would you be excited to press play? Or would you already be scrolling through your phone waiting for something more exciting to happen? A fun fact, when I was thinking about this episode, is that I remembered that I used to watch soap operas growing up. I used to watch All My Children. That was my favorite soap opera growing up, which feels funny to me on multiple levels now because of the work that I do today in trying to help all the children, everyone's inner child, all the versions of my own inner child, my own children. And so it's just All My Children. Like, wow, that was really, it was really foreshadowing my life. Anyway, lately I've been thinking of this idea that after the age of 40, we enter what some people refer to as this second act, where part of you is no longer just living for other people. You're no longer playing the role that you were handed. And you're finally aware enough to realize that you're not just the actor. You are actually the main character. And you are the director. Believe it or not, you are. But here's the real question. Are you actually directing your own life? Or are you just watching it unfold, scene after scene? Well, I guess this is just how it goes. Because most of us didn't actually consciously choose our original script. It was written in our childhood through all these different experiences, through these different expectations, through survival, through this need to belong. And without even realizing it, we have been replaying these same scenes over and over again, long after they were meant to end. And so today I want you to imagine your life as a story. This living, breathing production. Who are the characters? What roles are they playing? What scenes are on repeat? And at what point do you finally stand up and say, cut? We are not filming this version anymore. Because here's what's really interesting. When you start to look at your life in this way, you realize something pretty dang important. Again, most of these scenes that we still carry that have this emotional charge to them today, they weren't written yesterday. They weren't written last year or even last decade. They were written when you were little. Before you had a language for boundaries, before you knew how to name your feelings, before you had any real choice at all. In those early moments, what was said, what wasn't said, what you learned you had to do or what you had to say, all in order to stay safe, to feel loved, that became the script for your character. And without realizing it, many of us today are still acting from those same scripts. We're replaying these childhood scenes in our adult bodies, in our adult lives. And we're wondering why the story feels so dang familiar. Why it feels exhausting, why we feel stuck. So as we move into this next part, I want you to think back without judgment, not with blame, but with curiosity. Because you're not broken for repeating the pattern. You were trained for those roles. And so I'll walk you through a couple of different scenes and see which one that you fit in. So maybe one of your earliest scenes looks a little something like this. You were the good kid. You were the one who didn't cause trouble. You were the one who reads the room before you speak. You were the one who learns pretty quickly that being easy keeps the peace. You didn't ask for much. You didn't make waves. You figure out how to be helpful and agreeable and responsible way, way earlier than you should have. And the lesson that your nervous system learned was that it isn't actually safe for me to just be me. It's that I'm safe when I'm good, when I'm quiet, when I don't need too much. So now, as an adult, you still feel uncomfortable taking up space. You still apologize for no reason. You still feel guilty resting. And when something feels off, it's just fine. You just blow it off, maybe just sweep it under the rug and you just keep going. And again, this isn't a personality flaw. This is your childhood scene still playing out in the background. Here's another scene. You were the strong one. You were the one that held it all together. You were the one who didn't cry, or if you did, it was very much in private. You were the one that learned that people needed you more than you needed them. You picked up on the unspoken rule that someone needed to be okay. And you volunteered. So you learned how to function under pressure. You learned how to push through. You learned how to keep moving, even though something inside of you was so tired or sad or unseen. And now, as an adult, you're super resilient. You're super capable. And gosh darn it, you are independent. But that's because slowing down doesn't actually feel safe. And asking for help, so uncomfortable. And rest feels like something that you have to earn later, right? And again, this is not a weakness. This is survival training from a very old scene that just never got that closing shot. Or maybe your scene looked a little bit more like this. You became really good at reading people. You read their facial expressions, the tone shifts, the energy that changes in the room. You learned how to sense when someone was upset without anyone saying a word. And without realizing it, you started to adjust yourself to keep things smooth. You learned when to joke. You learned when to be quiet. You learned when to step in and make things lighter. And now, as an adult, you feel other people's emotions so deeply as if they're your own. You can tell when something's off, even when nothing is said. And sometimes you take responsibility for trying to fix things that were never yours to fix. And again, this isn't an oversensitivity. This is a skill that was learned in childhood where emotional attunement meant safety. And man, this is absolutely, I identify with all of those roles, but I definitely identify with this role, with this scene. And it took me a long time to decide that I am no longer going to be reading from that script anymore, because I could see what it did to me. I can certainly still pull some of the magic from that and know that I have this ability to read people and all of those things, but I'm no longer a fixer. I don't need to step in and fix those things, because if I'm doing that, I'm denying someone of learning from their own script. And so none of these scenes mean that anything was necessarily wrong. They're just ones that you adopted because that was the script you were handed. But the question is, are these the scenes you still want directing your life now as an adult? Because here's the moment most people miss. Is that awareness, that moment you realize that you're in a scene that you didn't consciously choose, be like, hold up, wait a second. Where am I? What are we doing here? That's when the healing begins. When you finally say the word that most of us were never taught we were allowed to say, and that is cut. And it doesn't have to be out of anger. It doesn't have to be out of blame, but out of self-respect. Like, hold up. This is my life. Why are you all trying to run it? Tell me what I should be doing and what I should be saying, what I should be feeling. We're not filming this version anymore. Just because that scene made sense once does not mean it deserves another season. And we don't yell cut because it's not dramatic enough or bad enough. It's that you yell cut the moment you realize that whatever is playing out no longer reflects who you are becoming, who you want to become, the things that you want to do, the life that you want to live. That is the moment you yell cut. And when you start looking at your life as this production, you also start noticing the cast. And here's the thing to remember. Everyone has a role. Everyone. Some people are here to support you. Some people are here to challenge you. And some are here to mirror something in you that you have yet to look at, that you have yet to learn, that you have yet to heal. Looking at the person who drains you. Maybe they might be the one that's in your life to teach you about boundaries. The person who triggers you. That role might be the one to show you this unhealed wound that you have, but that you're ready to heal it. That's why it's coming up for you. That's why they've entered the story when they did. Or that person who keeps disappointing you. Maybe that's the scene where you stop overgiving, or you stop disappointing yourself because you're not following through on your promises to yourself. And that person was your mirror. None of these roles are random. Everyone in your life was given an instruction. And so when you start to look at the people that come in and out of your life, what role are they playing? Are they here to teach you something? Are they here to show you love? Are they here to show you what it looks like when you don't evolve, when you stay the same, when you stay stuck? Are they here to inspire you to be like, whoa, they did that? I could do that too? Or are they just here for that moment of kindness at the checkout line when you really just needed to pick me up and someone to smile at you? And then we have ego, our own ego as a character, right? Not even just the people in it, but ourselves and the roles that our ego takes on. And ego is like this over dramatic narrator of your life. It's always adding commentary, always jumping to conclusions. And it's always trying to protect you by keeping the story familiar. Because ego loves old scripts. It hates uncertainty. It would not love improv. Let's just say that. So it'll absolutely rewrite this scene without your permission if you're not paying attention. You have to pay attention. And ego's not doing this because it's some evil character in your play. It's because it learned a long time ago that predictability meant safety. And that's literally all it's trying to do, is to protect the little you. Because here's the thing, the problem is not that ego speaks. The problem is when we let it direct. And now it's calling all the shots. Now it's telling us who we need to be, what we need to say, what we need to suppress to stay safe. And this actually reminds me of a story that literally happened today as I was dropping Aria off at the house. We were driving by, turning this corner, and there's this little pond there. And she goes, oh, I should go ice skating. And I said, yeah, you should. And then I said, Arlo should. And in my head, it's because Arlo has skates. But immediately, Aria goes to me, oh, because you think I'm a biggie and that I'm going to fall in? And I was like, no, it's literally because Arlo has skates and you don't. Like, what? But I was just fascinated by how quickly that story came up. There was no pause. There was no question. It was just this instant narrative. Like, oh, you think I'm a biggie and that's why I would fall in? Like, no. Ego loves to fill in the blanks, often very inaccurately. But if we don't catch it, we start living the story as if it were true. But I said to Aria, I'm like, I love that your ego speaks out loud because then I can say to it, no, that is not what I said. That is not at all what I meant. I meant Arlo has skates and you don't. So that's all it was. But imagine if she didn't say those things out loud, and how often ours don't. We don't say the things out loud. We internalize them. And then it creates this massive story within that we start to believe is true. And for so many of us, it is the life that we're living, and parts of us that we think we are and we're truly not. To Tammy, you should stay small. That'll keep you safe. No, that's not actually keeping me safe. That's keeping me stuck. And so those are stories and scripts that, no, I'm no longer going to let ego sit there and continue to create these things because I'm not paying attention. I'm paying attention now to those intrusive thoughts and being like, nope, I will find a better feeling thought. You do not get to rewrite the script. So I want you to think about how many of those scripts simply started from a misunderstanding because you heard something wrong, because you misinterpreted what someone said, because there was a lack of information or a lack of communication. But then somehow it became your reality. Somehow it became these internalized beliefs on who you are. And when we think about these roles that ego plays, it's that needs to be released. And sometimes it's another person, yes. But sometimes it's an old version of you. It's the one that over-explains. It's the one that shrinks. It's the version of you that stays quiet to keep the peace. You are allowed to write that role out. And just like those roles no longer have a place in that script, there are sometimes people in your life that were only meant for a season. Some were only meant for a single scene. Some were just literally put in that story to be a catalyst for you, to wake you up, to trigger you. And then they're gone after the commercial break. Like, where did that character go? Or the next episode, like, whatever happened to so-and-so? Right? You think about that. That literally happens in our life. And it's okay when you start to see it as this massive play and this massive production. You're like, oh my gosh, I can truly see it now. But you also want to think about the characters that aren't there to play the villain. Some of them show up really quietly right when you need them most. Maybe it's the stranger who gives you a compliment on a really hard day, or it's the friend who texts you in the exact right moment you needed. Or maybe it's that conversation you had that just shifts something inside of you, whether that was a conversation you had with God, with yourself, with your inner child, who knows? But we think about these other characters in our life. Some of them are the helpers. They are the angels. They are the reminders that you're not doing this alone. And I have so many of these people in my life. I believe it was on the 1-year episode, I had my 3rd grade teacher on the podcast. I will link that one in here because it's such a good episode. But she's very much one of those people that I identify as this guardian angel. Like, wow, how after all these years is she still in my life and still cares about me, still pours belief into me? Or I think about my friend Michelle, hopefully she's listening. We met in 2018 and, we're kind of like the fox and the hound where it's like you're the best of friends. And like it doesn't maybe make sense of why she would continue to want to message me. And I'm probably just a nuisance to her. But for some reason, like she cares. And I feel like I can call her and text her anytime and she will give me the best advice. I'm like, how did I get so lucky to have someone like her in my life? And there's so many other people that have come in and out of my life. I'm so grateful. But even those hard ones, like I'm grateful for the role they played in my life too, because now I can very clearly see the role they played in my story and how it was meant to help me heal, how it was meant to be a catalyst in this next phase of my growth, in this next phase of my healing. So even if they caused me pain, I can still have love and compassion and gratitude for them. I think about my ex as an example. He no longer plays the role of my husband. Now he plays the role of my kid's dad and co-parent. And that's okay. We didn't have to like kill him off in this story. He just plays a different role. And we can function and learn how that script goes now. And we're still learning how that goes. But you can think about that and how sometimes there's character development, or you go from the main character to someone who's maybe as an extra now in someone's life. And that's okay too. And when you think about these soul contracts that we have, there is no mistake that The kids that you have are put in your life for a reason. Mine are the greatest teachers that I have. And vice versa, the things that I'm meant to teach them. Same thing with my parents. The love that they gave me, the wounds that they gave me, it was all by design. And that's why I have nothing but love and gratitude for them as well. Because I know I came in and said, I'm signing this contract, all these wounds that you are going to pass down to me. I know that it's in my contract to heal these and so that I don't pass them down to my kids. But that was the contract I signed. And I said, I'll sign up for this script, but at some point I get to choose. I get to choose how the rest of this goes. You think about your siblings. You think about your partner. I absolutely had a soul contract with my ex and all of the things that I learned through that relationship. And even now, it's just a different version of that contract, right? We didn't completely dissolve it and rip it up. It was like, oh, we're just going to transform this now. It's going to look a little bit different. But none of these relationships are random casting choices. Absolutely not. They are sacred roles in your life that stretch you, that soften you, that teach you how to love you more honestly, not to hate them, not to resent them, none of that. If you can take any relationship that you have had, especially any ones that you have felt anger or resentment or hatred for, when you can look at that from a place of what role were they put in my life for? What were they meant to show me within myself? And again, it's always putting that mirror up. I'm like, oh, yep, that was definitely a boundary issue. Whew. Or they kept wanting to bring you back to play the role that they were used to. And I definitely experienced that in my life. Like, guess what? I'm not that person anymore. Like, I know I may be the little sister, but guess what? I'm also a grown-ass adult who's done a lot of healing, who knows who she is and is not going to go back and play that role anymore. I mean, there's plenty of examples of that. That's just the first one that comes to mind. This also brings me to something that Arlo said recently. I asked him if he wanted to watch a movie this weekend. And the one I had suggested, he stopped and he said, I don't want to watch that. There's sad parts in there. And I was like, that's okay. Because like, yeah, but they make my throat hurt. And I was like, Arlo, like that's emotion that's trying to come out. You can let that come out. You can let yourself cry. You can talk about it being sad. But that's what trapped emotions feels like. And he was able to articulate that. I don't like these movies because they make me feel sad and then my throat hurts because I'm literally trying to trap these emotions that want to come out. And I was like, oh, buddy. See, again, soul contract. I am meant to help teach him now as a 7-year-old how to safely feel those emotions and not to suppress them and what that feels like in his body when he does. That is my role in his life. And his role is to mirror back to me just this pure, authentic, genuine soul who I want to protect in that state before the world tells him who he's supposed to be and that he's supposed to be a tough boy and boys don't cry. Not on my watch. But so I tried to explain to him that we're not supposed to avoid those emotions. We're supposed to move through those emotions. Because if you avoid the sad parts of the movie, guess what? You're never going to get to the good part either. Because isn't that usually when the breakthrough happens? When the big lesson is learned? But that same thing happens in life as we try to avoid these emotions. We don't want to feel sadness. We don't want to feel grief. We don't want to feel disappointment because we think we're going to stay safe that way, but we don't. We stay stuck. Healing happens when you allow yourself to move through your emotions. And when we can learn how to process them in a safe way through a movie, that's a great time to practice allowing yourself to actually cry. How many of you would cry at a commercial and you're like, what the hell is this? Why am I crying? Because it's maybe your inner child and your body finally saw this moment, like, oh, I could like play it off as it was this commercial when really it's these suppressed emotions coming out. Or when you do start crying for one little thing, but then you can't stop. It's because, again, they kick the door, but like, oh my gosh, she's finally letting herself feel emotions. We should just keep this going. Get them out, get them out, get them out. But then you almost sometimes feel scared because it's like once you start crying, you don't think you're going to be able to stop. And I can't even tell you how many times I've heard that. And that should be your sign that there are a lot of suppressed emotions that are wanting to come out, that they are literally crying to come out, and that they should not be trapped inside, unfelt, unseen, unheard. Because that, again, is a form of abandonment. and how we do it to ourselves each and every day when we just try to power through and play these roles at our job, in our relationships. And so I wanted to ask you something. Where are you at in your story right now? Are you sitting in the audience, literally just watching your life go by? Are you in the backstage waiting for permission? Or are you on set, but you're letting someone else call the shots, telling you what to do, what to say, how to be? Because here's the thing, you don't actually need to control the entire movie right now, which can feel overwhelming. You just need to choose the next scene. What am I going to do tomorrow when I show up on set? How am I going to be? What character am I going to be? What role am I going to play in my own life? I need to choose that for tomorrow. And when I keep doing that every single day, this constant return to myself, this return to the set so I can determine how this plays out, that's what this is all about. Don't overwhelm yourself with, I don't know how this is going to end. I don't know how this is going to end. I'm just taking it day by day and making sure that I am the one that's writing the script. And when something feels off, when there's a character, it's like, I don't know if they belong in this script anymore. I don't like how this is playing out. Well, guess what? I get to either write them in or out. And same thing with job opportunities and things like that. If it's not in alignment, it doesn't have a place in this script. But we have to be able to choose that, not letting other people choose that for us. So before I close this up today, I want to leave you with a few reflections. I've given you a lot to think about today, hopefully. But you don't have to answer these perfectly. You don't even have to do it right now. But I just, at some point, ask them and see how they land. Is that if your life were a movie, what scene are you in right now? Is it the turning point? Are you in this quiet rebuilding phase? Are you in the moment where something big needs to be released, but maybe that next chapter hasn't fully revealed itself yet? You're still trying to figure out what to write in there. Because today, which I have not mentioned when I'm recording this, it is 1/11. So it's actually 1/1/1 because 2026 adds up to 10, which ends up being a 1 year. So we've got 11/11 as I'm recording this. So I'm infusing this episode with that energy. And so that is an initiation. That is a doorway. That is a reminder to you to find your voice, to write the script yourself, to be the director, to be the main character. And so use this energy that is in this episode to think about what that looks like for you and what might be asking to begin right now. What scene is ready to unfold for you right now? Not someday, not when you got everything figured out, but now, right now. Because what would it look like for you to stop waiting for the plot change and you actually chose the direction for this next scene? You made a conscious decision for this next scene and how you want it to play out. And maybe this is the most important question of all, is that are you staying true to your character, to who you truly are? And if you don't know who that is yet, because you're still trying to remove all of these roles and things that weren't you, trying to figure out what your true values are if they weren't inherited, trying to learn your nervous system all over again, your body, your inner child. Because this second act of life isn't about fixing you. It is about coming home to you, coming home to yourself and who you've always been. You are not behind. You are not broken. And it is not too late. You are just waking up mid-story. And when you wake up in the middle of that story, something really, really powerful happens. Because you don't have to keep rereading the same old script. You don't have to keep replaying scenes that no longer fit. You don't have to keep letting your past direct your present. You are allowed to sit in the director's chair now. You are allowed to choose the new angle. You are allowed to write the next scene with intention, with compassion, and with truth. And this might be your moment to begin again. Not dramatically, certainly not perfectly, but consciously choosing how you want this play, this script, this scene to play out. And so if something in this episode stirred within you at all, if you felt seen in any way, softened in any way, heard, or just quietly called forward to be like, know that that's not pressure. That's awareness unlocking for you. And I'm going to plug it again because I have to, because it's that important. And that is exactly what the Nourished Woman is all about in this exact moment. It's for the woman who is done surviving old scripts, playing out the same old story, the same old script every single day, is ready for that next chapter, and doing so with safety and support, and they are ready to nourish themselves through their next chapter, through their body, their nervous system, their inner child, and their real life. This isn't about fixing yourself. This is about directing your life with care and intention. And so if you felt that nudge, I hope that you trust it. And again, you don't have to take this big, scary leap. You just have to take the next step and choose the next scene. And if I get to be part of that next scene, it would be an absolute honor to help you write your Act 2 moving forward. So until next week, please continue to listen to your body, to honor your story, and keep coming home to yourself again and again. Thanks for press and play.